Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a great day when we can get on the podcast and talk about something that is happening in the market that is really interesting. I am a big fan of following social media influencers that are in real estate, the real estate world as a whole. And one of the people that I find is that I follow is Ryan Pineda. I believe Pineda is the right way to pronounce his last name. He's the kind of slender guy, played for the Athletics. I'm an A's fan. He's got the sideways hair. He's got the very much real estate look. And his whole story is, I was an athletic player. I wasn't making very much money. I decided to flip couches. Him and his wife flip couches, make a bunch of money. He decides to get into real estate, leverages everything he has, and it works out in flipping, and boom, bada bing, bada bang. This guy's, he's killing it in the real estate industry. He opens his own brokerage, and now he has a ton of subsidiary businesses that kind of all work together, right? Like a media company and the real estate brokerage and, coaching and all of this stuff. But he just came out with a really interesting TikTok that I heard it and I thought, wow, this is a bit controversial. And I think a lot of people may not understand it. They may not really get what's going on here. And that's fair, because I think that's the very nature sometimes of social media and marketing, is that it is, right? They frame the message to make you think what they want you to think. And so I'm going to play the clip that he just put out yesterday. This would have been October 28th. And I actually sent this to my broker because there's some interesting things inside of it that we've been discussing with our brokerage, but as well as my take on why I think he has done this. So take a listen.
I shut down my real estate brokerage with over 200 agents. And you might ask, why would I do that? Well, for one, I don't think that the local brokerage model is very scalable. If I'm developing influence across the world and I can only get agents here in Las Vegas, it's not a very big piece of the people who watch me. But the second reason was I realized that agents have a big problem that brokerages don't address. The brokerages don't teach them how to invest in real estate. They don't teach them how to use social media and build their personal brand to get free leads. And they definitely don't teach them about the tax code and how they could be saving way more. And so I decided, instead of just running a brokerage and processing transactions, I would rather go train agents how to build real wealth. So if you're an agent anywhere in the country and you're interested in growing your personal brand, or investing in real estate, or learning about the tax code, DM me the word wealthy. I want to work with you and help you grow to the next level. I'll send you a quick video and show you how we can help you get to the next level.
So this is so interesting, right? And I'm looking at this from, a couple different angles. I'm looking at this from an operator where, part of my job is to help grow and expand our brokerage. I'm looking at this from, the media director position where, this is, why is he putting out this message? Why is he saying the things that he's saying, and how he's saying it? And it's so interesting. So I want to start with the fact that, he just spent the last couple years building this brokerage. He has 200 employees in there that, granted contracted workers, but 200 people that rely on their service, that rely on their name, that rely on the, processes that they have in place. And I'm sure, being tied to that brokerage has its benefits in the way that, Ryan's one of the most influential realtor influencers in the market right now, right? I mean, it's you'd be hard pressed to find very many people that are, doing real estate better than him as it pertains to branding and marketing. And so it's interesting because he essentially sounds like, I don't know how much notice he gave this people or what happened, but he almost makes it sound like, well, I went in the office on Friday and I let everybody know that they no longer work for my brokerage, that I'm shutting the doors and that they need to find a new brokerage to go with. And this to me is a bit disheartening, and, it doesn't come off that way in the thing, but, how is that, as a leader in the industry, how is that a good way to build career realtors, right? It's a selfish thing to do, in my opinion. And that's completely fine. He's more then welcome to be selfish, right? It's his life, it's his business. He doesn't have to keep it open. But I understand what's going on here, right? I think the real estate market is struggling a bit. I think that he carries a ton of overhead for keeping realtors on the books. And this is very typical of most brokerages. They have all this overhead, and this is a lot of time where they have transaction fees, why they have the payouts that they do, why they have desk fees and all of these other fees that these realtors end up paying, because they have to be able to offset their overhead for having these realtors in their brokerage, right? And so the way I'm thinking is the real estate market is down right now. People aren't doing as many transactions as he has. And he's right. He's limited to the area, the Vegas area that he's in, and he has these 200 realtors. And he's just like, well, this is probably the least profitable part of his business that requires the most work, right? If you're auditing all of his businesses, which most of them are online based, they're essentially you sign up and you don't have to do any more work, right? Then yeah, the brokerage is the biggest headache of everything you're doing. So it would be understandable that you would want to take that step back, especially in the struggling market. But man, are you really doing a disservice to these realtors, dude? I mean, they trusted in you. They put their license under you. They invested with you, I'm sure, quite a bit. And now you're just like, well, sorry, you guys aren't making me enough money. I'm going to shut the doors, right? And that's really how I see the message coming across, is that this is not the most way for him to be profitable, and that he doesn't want to build career realtors. He doesn't want to deal with the transactional side. He doesn't want to deal with auditing and the liability of having these realtors on and making sure they're doing their jobs correctly and paying. I'm sure he has team leads or maybe other brokers under him that he's having to pay out for them to manage these people. And he's just realized that this is not the best way for him to make money. It's probably not the most sustainable. And there's too much ebb and flow in the market for that to make sense. And so I totally understand the justification of probably wanting to go that way. But I do think, man, he just did a huge disservice to these 200 realtors that put their trust in him. And to me, that for me would be a character thing. I would really be, if I was there and I was working under them and now I had to just go find a new brokerage, and I was happy with the team I was with. I was happy with everything we were doing. I would feel really slighted by this move that he just made so he could make more money and line his pockets. This guy's not, he just put out a video not that long ago that he spends thousands of dollars a week on food, right? I mean, this guy's not hurting for money anymore. And so that's the first thing I get from this. Really, really interesting to kind of look at it from that perspective. Now, let's jump into the next thing where he says that real estate companies are not coaching their employees, are coaching their staff, are coaching their contract workers. This is 100% true. This is something that we talk about day in and day out because we are trying to build career realtors. There is a significant issue in the real estate market that realtors are not being taught the correct stuff. They're not being informed. They're not being taught how to build and keep wealth. This is a big problem. Now, understand that this is kind of difficult to do in the way that there's laws around what you are required, what you're allowed to ask contracted workers to do, right? I mean, you can't ask them to come in for trainings necessarily. You can't. I mean, this is a tough thing to navigate, but it gets difficult. You end up having to pay them if it's not done the right way, right? Because they are their own bosses, they are their own things. And the thing is that when you look at them that way, then you don't feel as obligated to have to step in and help them out, right? And I understand that the broker, their main job is to help the realtors learn how to do real estate, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that to make sure you're legally doing everything correctly. And there's a lot of scenarios that come up that can be very difficult to navigate. And so I understand that has to be the priority. We have to nail down the very first responsibility of being a realtor is you need to learn how to be in real estate, and you need to learn how to do the basic functionality of the job contracts, networking, outreach, follow through, negotiation, right? These are all standardized things that need to be taught and learned. So that totally makes sense. But then he's saying that they're not teaching them how to brand. They're not teaching them how to invest. They're not teaching them how to do the tax codes. And this is the exact thing that we've been talking about in our brokerage and things that implementing and programs that we're designing for our realtors, because he's 100% right. What you'll see a lot of times in real estate is that realtors will spend money as fast as they make it. And they might make $100,000-$200,000, but they don't know how to invest it. They don't know how to use the tax codes. And this is a really frustrating thing for us, because every year you're essentially chasing your tail to continue to live up with that lifestyle, right? And so how do you build career realtors if they're always in this place where they can never settle down just a little bit to learn how to build the business, right? Build their business, build a team to do that, right? They have to be able to do that. They have to feel financially secure and not constantly pressured to be able to be successful. And these are conversations that we're having. We believe that it's so important to create financial literacy within our own brokerage and with our people, and teach them how do you put money aside? Where do you invest that money? And the other thing is, a lot of people don't understand this, is like, when you are a realtor, you don't have health insurance. Like, you have to pay for yourself. And when you pay for health insurance yourself, it's really expensive, right? You need health insurance, you need car insurance, you need dental and vision insurance. You need to, if you're smart, you need to have a 401k, or you need to have some sort of retirement Roth investment. You need to put money aside if you want to learn how to invest, or learn how to flip, or learn how to wholesale, all of these things. And a lot of realtors, they don't think about this stuff because they're just focused on, how do I make money? How do I put food on the table? And how do I make that transition into being able to have enough money and live my life like I would if I had a salary job or an hourly job that I can count on money for. And so I totally understand how these things don't come up. And then I think eventually realtors get so used to having their independence that maybe the broker just doesn't feel like this is something they need to do, and they'll do it on their own. But we don't feel that way. We feel that these sort of things need to be taught at our level, and we need to give everyone an opportunity to be successful and to learn how to do this stuff. And a lot of this does come back to the branding part. Now, keep in mind, I think there's a strong argument that a lot of brokers, most people don't know how to build branding. That's the nature of it. Even if you've owned your own business, I was literally just listening to a guy this morning. He's a contractor. He said 30 years. He was talking to somebody else. I was eavesdropping. But granted, we were all in the same area, so it is what it is. But he was saying he's been in the business for 30 years. He has a couple of complexes and people that he works with that he gets steady business out of. And he said in 30 years, he's never had to advertise for his business, not once. 30 years, right? I think that this has been typical for a very long time because people built relationships differently in the past, and there was a lot more loyalty in the way that business happened. And so I understand that the necessity for branding, marketing, advertising was vastly different in the past than it is now. And so I think that a lot of brokers just don't know how to brand. I think they couldn't teach their realtors how to do it just because they don't know how to do it. And that's why you need a professional like myself who has the education, has the experience, has the where and know-it-all to teach people how to do this, because it is so vital to stand out in this community in real estate, home loans, that you need to know how to do this. And so that's a big part of what we're doing, right? We're implementing systems here that, when I say here, I mean at Orbit Home Loans and Orbit Realty, which this podcast is not necessarily associated with, but, we're implementing processes there that will not only teach, it will educate and create a structure for them where if they want to be successful, we're going to say, this is really what it takes, right? This is how you build a brand. This is how you do marketing. This is how you do content creation. This is how you do editing. This is how you manage public relations. This is how advertising is done. And then ultimately, this is how sales is done. And that's how we bring all of this back into now, this is how you do real estate, right? And this is how you manage relationships. And this is how you take that money that you've earned and you learn how to put it aside and then reinvest it in yourself, reinvest it in your business, reinvest it in your future self so you can be successful and be a career realtor. And so that's where Ryan's 100% on the nose right now. I don't like how he's gotten there. I don't like how he just dumped all his realtors, but I do understand that that service that he is going to be providing is going to be vastly important to people, and he's going to get into it early, right? He has the systems in place. He has the understanding and the knowledge base, and it's going to make him a lot of money because, now he's not limited to the 200 realtors he has. He can hit every state in the entire country and teach hundreds of thousands of people on how to do this. And they need it, right? It should come from your brokerage, right? It should come with how to identify stuff within your community, but ultimately he's going to do well there. And it's funny to see that correlation between what he's doing and what we're doing. And I was having a small conversation with my broker and I was, saying, I was like, check this out. Like, and he's like, he's right, whatever. And we made a joke with like, see if those realtors want to come work for us. But, ultimately, that education is going to be so important. And so that really is, it's such an interesting message that he's putting out. And I'm interested to see what, his marketing is going to look like in the next 6 months, because, I wonder if he's going to be talking less about what's really going on in the real estate market and more about this coaching, and how to build wealth. And I do find this transition happens a lot. I saw this a lot with Graham Stephan, who started out as a real estate influencer. And I think eventually you get kind of tapped out in this market. It becomes really difficult to continue to create content on this. And for you, it's great when you get new people, but for people that are following you, it's like, how many times do they really want to hear about what's going on in the market right now, right? They've already bought a home, they own a home, they're not going to buy another home for years, if ever. And so I totally understand from an influence standpoint, eventually you have to make some sort of transition into something that resonates more with people, and what resonates more with people than building wealth, right? And so I understand that. I'm sure at some point that'll be an extension of what's happening here on the podcast, and I think there's an interesting opportunity for entrepreneurship. There's an interesting opportunity for bringing on, a wider range of what real estate means. And I've been thinking about this, bringing on gardeners, bringing on roofers, bringing on contractors, people that do pools, things that have to do with real estate, not just real estate itself, right? So totally understand where he's going with that, but it was such a shock to just see like, and I'm sure he was profitable with the real estate brokerage, right? It wasn't probably a drop of the hat. Like, I'm not making money at all from this. I'm sure they're successful, but man, it was really interesting to just see that message come out. So I would definitely check out his Instagram, check out his TikTok. He has stuff coming out. I think it's going to be a really interesting place to be. But for me, the best reinforcing thing was to say like, okay, I was right. I was early on this. I understood it. We're right. We know we're building career realtors, and we're doing things, implementing systems that are a necessity for people that are in this industry. And that's what's going to bring more value into our organization than other organizations, because we're not going to just treat these realtors like they are, second class employees or second class people because they're contracted workers. We're going to give them every opportunity to integrate and do trainings that will allow them to be compliant, that will allow them to build wealth and gain education and, ultimately, be happy with what they're doing and want to do this for the rest of their lives. So keep an eye out for that. I'll have my broker on and we'll have that conversation, but I just wanted to jump in. I wanted to talk about that while it was fresh. Thank you guys for being on. As always, this is the Hard Money Show where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. You guys have a great day.